Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Chirp, our March Madness preview special. Noah Johnson, Aiden Doyle. A couple days after the selection show, and we got a handful of horrible decisions once again from the committee.
some
So,
some benefiting certain schools,
certain schools that
i.e., where I go.
I was going to say that one of us may have some allegiances to.
Yeah.
But let's start with the one seed. Or I guess the one line, and start with the fact that Michigan State's not a one, which makes no sense.
So I don't see how they're not a one, but hey, whatever.
So, but here's the thing: I don't understand how Virginia, who didn't win their conference tournament and had a worse record than Michigan State, is a one, right? And I also don't understand how Oregon is a one ahead of them. I can understand Kansas and I can understand North Carolina because I think Kansas is the best team and I think North Carolina is the most talented team. But that didn't make sense to me. Number two is Kentucky being seated below, or I guess above, Texas A&M, who they were ranked higher than and beat in the SEC championship game. Okay, so that's problem number 2. And problem number 3 is the bubble. Congratulations to Syracuse, first of all, for somehow getting a 10.
Yeah, that's nice.
It was very, because oh my gosh, when they finished the third bracket, or the third quadrant, I thought Syracuse was done because Gonzaga
Well,
would have had to have been the last 11.
yeah, when you saw, I say because once I saw that the play-in game wasn't them, I was like, oh. Because I mean, that was all the prediction beforehand was that if we were going to get in, we were going to get in as an 11 in a play-in game,
Yeah.
and well, we didn't.
Well, I mean, good for you. I guess Dayton is a relatively favorable matchup, as well. So
It is. Dayton's a good matchup for us.
yeah, I don't like Michigan State in the second round,
No, no.
but
Spoiler alert: I have us beating Dayton in the first round and losing by about 30 to Michigan State in the next
yeah,
round.
yeah, we'll see. And I don't agree with Tulsa. All right, well, all right, I spoiled what I was about to say. I don't agree with Syracuse being a 10. I'd be fine with them as an 11, but I certainly don't understand how Tulsa's in. I don't understand, and the argument is that they have 4 wins against the RPI top 50, right?
Yeah,
It was so did South Carolina, and South Carolina was 4-1 against them compared to 4-4 by Tulsa. South Carolina plays in a Power 6 conference in the SEC. Tulsa plays in the American Athletic. They got blown out by Memphis in the
yeah.
tournament, didn't they? So, I don't know. I think Monmouth got screwed. I think, and I honestly, I just wanted them.
Same Bonaventure too.
St. Bonnie's got ripped off by the committee. Even you can make a case for Valpo, even, or St. Mary's.
Yeah,
There's 5 teams I would have put in ahead of Tulsa, and arguably I would have put in someone like South Carolina or Monmouth ahead of Michigan.
Michigan gets the benefit of the doubt because they play in the Big Ten, and
That's true, and they had a big win
committee
against Indiana.
and the committee showed that they were very. I don't want to say like pro big school,
They
but like
they are, yes, that's right, they are.
I mean, yeah,
Big,
but
if you play in a
for
power
example,
conference, you get the
if you
benefit
play
of
in
the
a power
doubt,
conference and you have like some prestige next to your name, like a Syracuse or a Michigan does, then that's absolutely going to benefit you.
which is a shame. Maybe not. Syracuse, I don't have a problem with Syracuse being in. I just don't know about a 10. I have a problem with, more of a problem at least, with Michigan being in ahead of the 5 other schools that could have gotten in. And certainly have a problem with Tulsa. But that shouldn't matter because Tulsa will probably lose their first game. And if not, they'll get blown out by Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Anyway, all right, let's go to the bracket. Let's start the bracket. I guess we'll start in the South and do
sure.
it by What do you want to do it by? Like by half or
Do you want to
by
do it?
fourth? We should have
Well,
discussed this more.
no, we'll go matchup by matchup.
Okay, all right. Let's start with.
But do you want to go like for example, once we finish the first round in the South region, do you want to move on to the next region, or do you want to continue until we get to our final four team from that region and then move on?
Your call. What do you
I
want to
like
do?
the second option. I feel like if you go,
Go completely by region.
yeah,
Okay, and then we'll do a final four at the end. All right, that's good. All right, South region. Do we even have to do the first Kansas and Austin P?
Austin P all the way.
I,
they're
I,
going they're going the distance.
I feel like Kansas, being the overall number one seed, should get a play-in game team,
You'd think, but
right? Like Holy Cross and Southern,
yeah.
but whatever.
Oh,
It doesn't
would they
matter.
put Southern in the South?
Yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I
Colorado, Yukon.
Listen. I think UConn's hot right now.
Yukon's hot, and trust me, we've seen this before.
Yeah, that's right.
See Kemba Walker and Shabazz Napier.
Mm-hmm.
UConn, I mean, people forget at the beginning of the year they were a ranked team. I mean, Syracuse beat them when they were the 18th ranked team in the country, and
right.
then they had a poor middle of the season and are trending upwards going into the tournament. That's a dangerous team, and let me tell you, I'm sure Kansas Bill Self isn't happy. Isn't happy. It's not like he can do anything about it, but I think the matchup he's going to fret about is that second round matchup versus UConn.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, they've won 4 in a row. They had that 4 overtime game against Cincy,
Which was incredible.
which is why they're in the tournament.
Yeah,
If they had lost that game, they're probably not in.
yeah.
So,
Kevin Ollie knows how to coach in these situations.
I think at this time of year also, and this is kind of the trend that I had throughout the bracket, was, if there's something to be said for teams that are on a hot streak. And I know we're going to get to Seton Hall later, and I think that's a perfect example, because I think they're the hottest team in the country right now. So that's why I've got faith in UConn to beat Colorado. And I guess we'll get to Kansas UConn, but
Yeah.
All right, well, move on. The 5-12,
Your Terps?
5-12, 4-13 are really interesting. Maryland got probably the worst draw that they could have gotten, because South Dakota State is not a walk in the park.
I still think Maryland wins, though.
I do too, because they have the talent to win a national championship, but they haven't shown this year that they can.
No, they've been as inconsistent as you get.
Right, and the general rule is that there are 2 5-12 upsets every year. So
Yeah. Well, I have 0, so
I do too. I played it very safe.
I also have a very safe bracket, but I don't know. I'm scared.
Listen, I usually do horribly at this, so
Yeah, for a kid who follows college basketball as closely as I do, I'm amazed at how poorly I do at this.
so I guess this year I was decided to be a little not as adventurous. All right, 4-13. I have Maryland as well, but I think it's close. I don't.
Yeah, I have Maryland.
Cal and Hawaii.
I have Cal.
I do too. Cal is incredibly talented.
Cal is, I mean, Ivan Rabb, Jalen Brown. That's that duo right there. They're both going to be lottery picks.
But don't sleep on Hawaii.
No, Hawaii's a good team as well.
Hawaii's very good, and
they're very hot right now.
yes, and exactly, and that's kind of a team where a lot of people don't get to see.
Yeah, because they're in Hawaii.
Yeah, because they're on an island, I don't know.
Thousands of miles away.
Yes. So, yeah, and they play in the late games every night. So, I'd say don't sleep on Hawaii, and that's another game I could see an upset. But just based on talent, kind of the same thing with Maryland, I don't see how Cal doesn't get through.
Yeah. Arizona, or who do you think is going to win that first playing game? Vanderbilt, Wichita State.
That phenomenal play-in game. I have Wichita State based on tournament experience, and I have Wichita State beating Arizona.
This is one I've gone back and forth between. I had Arizona for most of the time. Then last night I switched it to Wichita State, and this morning I switched it back to Arizona. So
the problem I have with picking a 6-11 play-in game is if Vandy wins, then I'm already like I already lose that team like before the actual tournament even starts.
Yeah.
But I think Arizona's been inconsistent this season, and Wichita State has tournament experience, and they're finally healthy. So even without, oh no, I'm thinking of a different team. Never mind. I was gonna say Shaka Smart, but that's VCU.
Well, yeah, and then he went to Texas now.
Yes, yeah, that's later on.
Yeah.
I have now I have faith in Wichita State because they've done it before, and I don't think Arizona.
Arizona
I
always
don't trust them as much as I did
disappoints.
last season. What?
They always disappoint.
Who? Arizona?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they're always like a 1, 2, 3 somewhere in that neighborhood, and
and lose early. Right,
not
and
really, but they never make it past like the Elite Eight. They've never been to a final. Well, they have, but not
recently, right? They
Yeah,
haven't been
not
there recently.
recently.
And Wichita State is one of those teams. They're in the category of VCU and Butler, who,
Yeah.
despite being really small schools, always seem to be Sweet
Well,
16 teams.
yeah.
Not saying I think they're going to the Sweet 16 this year, but I do think they beat Arizona. Miami Buffalo, anything?
Miami.
Yeah.
I think Miami is a very good team.
Iowa Temple is interesting though.
I have Temple.
I do too. I think Iowa is more talented, but they are the coldest team in the universe right now in any
Yeah.
sport. Because
Iowa. I mean, earlier in the season, what they were ranked like fourth in the country.
I think third, right? They were
They got up there,
in early February. They were a contender for a number 1 seed.
and now they're a 7.
They were a 7. So I've got Temple, and
I do
plus
too.
I want to see that Big Five matchup between Villanova and Temple.
Yep, that also played a part of it.
Right. Anyway, I didn't trust Iowa even when they were 3. I think they had 2 really good wins against Michigan State, and that's kind of what they have to hang their hats on. But I don't know. I've got Temple, and Temple again. That's another team that's not. It's not a really big school, but they always seem to be in the tournament.
Yep.
All right,
Villanova, UNC, Asheville.
Yeah, well, I think we know what's
Villanova.
Villanova. All right, West Reed. Oh no, actually, we're going back up to the
Oh,
top.
yeah. So
Right.
second round of 32.
All right, so I have
Kansas, UConn.
As do you.
I have Kansas.
I think UConn can give them a run, but I think ultimately Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be. I think if Kansas has a game to fear before really the Final Four, it's this one.
Mhm.
I think UConn, honestly, UConn could pull off an upset here. It wouldn't completely shock me, but I'm still, I mean, like you said, Kansas, as far as cohesiveness mixed with talent, mixed with experience,
Yeah,
Kansas is the best team in the country. So,
agreed. Okay, yeah, and I think Kansas as well. All right, Maryland, Cal. Now again, this could very easily be South Dakota State, Hawaii.
yeah.
But
I switched it. So I originally had Cal, and I switched to Maryland.
the interesting thing here is, and I picked Maryland because I kind of have to, because I think this is a total toss-up. It can honestly go either way.
Yeah.
And I think both of these teams can give Kansas a run. But, gosh, the only reason I've been so hesitant to pick Maryland is they probably had one of the worst ends to any season. I'm not phrasing this right. Out of all of the top 25 teams in college basketball, they probably had the worst end to their season, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Right, and I'm not talking about the loss to Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament. That's fine because they can't beat Michigan State. But even the games they won, they beat Nebraska in the first game in the tournament, and they let a 20-something point lead with 6 minutes to go slip away. Nebraska cut it all the way down to 6 with a minute left.
I mean, yeah, they're a gamble, but I think if
they can't put games away.
I'm gambling on them playing up to what they can
I think
against a
so.
team like Cal.
I agree, and which is why I'm actually more nervous about South Dakota State than I am about Cal. Because it seems like, and Minnesota is a perfect example. They lost at Minnesota, and Minnesota is garbage. They're horrible this year. Finished last in the Big Ten, and they let Nebraska creep back into the game when they played them, and that's not the
Yeah.
only time that's happened this season. So I think that you make a good point. They'll play up to a team like Cal, but they'll play down to a team like South Dakota State. But I kind of have to pick them to go through and play Kansas. All right, I think actually you're Arizona, Miami, right?
I am.
And I'm Wichita. All right, go ahead with Arizona, Miami.
I have Miami. I think Miami is a very good team. I think they're one of the better, if not the best, 3 seed in the tournament. So I'm taking them here.
I would say West Virginia is the best 3 seed.
Well, it's one of those two.
Yeah.
It's not Utah or
No.
who's the other one?
Uh,
A&M. It's not
yeah.
Utah or A&M.
A&M shouldn't be a 3 seed anyway. I've got Miami 2 over Wichita State. I can see an upset there. I don't. Miami's kind of a team where I'm not going to trust them completely until I see them do it, because that's not a team in recent years that has a ton of tournament experience.
Yeah, they've been good, but not great.
Yeah. So this is the best they've been, or the best showing they've had in the regular season.
Yeah, at least since Shane Larkin left.
Right. So, yeah, I'll pick them too, but I would not be surprised to see an upset. And
Temple, Villanova.
The all Philly matchup in Brooklyn.
I took Temple.
You took Temple.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Villanova never makes it past the second round. Until they do, I'm not going to pick them. I think Temple's going to be hyped for that matchup. I think Temple's a pretty good 10 seed. Similar styles, both defensive. I think Villanova is a better offensive team than Temple is, but if they get hot, anything can happen. And I think Temple's going to be pumped for that game.
I agree. I can't pick Temple though. I had to pick Villanova. Here's why. They played at Temple, right? And Villanova buried them. They crushed them. This is on a neutral floor. So
anything can happen.
I understand that, but
well, yeah, precedent and all
history
logic.
if recent history teaches us,
all logic says that Villanova is going to win that game. But I don't know. You gotta pick. I have to pick an upset somewhere.
That's true. I'm very hyped for that matchup
as
well. I can't see Villanova. I can't see them losing it. They don't always get knocked out in the second round. They when Scotty Reynolds was there, they went to the Final Four.
Second round. Yeah.
All right. I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see it. I'd love to see it, but because that doesn't bust my bracket. But
Kansas, Maryland.
Kansas.
I chose Kansas.
Mostly because I'm not totally convinced that Maryland's going to get there.
Yeah.
So I think Kansas is a safe bet.
Maryland has the talent to upset them, but I don't think they will.
I think Maryland, player for player, is more talented, but Kansas is just a better team.
And better coached.
Right. I agree with that as well. Bill Self he definitely trumps Turgeon.
All right, Miami, Villanova for you. Miami, Temple for me.
I know. Oh man, did you go Temple?
No, I went with Miami.
Okay, I went Nova.
Okay.
Again, I don't trust Miami. I don't trust them.
They're in my Elite Eight, so.
And I don't have any. I don't really have any analysis to back it up. Based on, I find when doing a bracket, sometimes gut instinct is like the best.
Yeah, I've changed mine like 9 times, and it's terrifying me because I've read so many articles in the past few days.
Everybody's always wrong. Analysts are never more wrong. I say this as we analyze the bracket. Analysts are never more wrong than they are with the tournament. It is the most difficult sporting event to predict. Because there are upsets all over the place. And we're saying this right now. A 15 seed will probably win a couple games this year, and probably a couple 3 seeds will get knocked out, and then 2 of the 1 seeds will be out on the first weekend, and then this will have been pointless.
Yeah, and then we'll still be here sitting talking about Kansas and UNC and Michigan State and stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's all right. That's all right. It's all right. Have fun now. Um, Kansas Miami for you. Kansas Nova for me.
Kansas.
Yeah. Best team. They are the
Yeah.
best team.
So we have Kansas in the Final Four.
I didn't understand the argument that Kansas was, that there's a debate that Kansas shouldn't be the number one overall seed.
No, they should be.
Arguably, the only team that has a case to be a number one seed instead, or the overall number one seed instead of them, is Michigan State.
Yeah.
And Michigan State was a 2, which is still ridiculous. All right, Kansas in the Final Four. To the West, we'll go down one.
All right.
Talk about Oregon's bracket. Do you have a pick for Holy Cross versus Southern?
Holy Cross. Simply because they have a better name.
They do have a nice name.
What kind of name is Southern?
I know absolutely nothing about these two teams, so I picked Southern based on record. That's what I went with. Oregon against whoever.
I'll take Oregon.
Yeah. After they really dominated Utah in the Pac-12 championship. St. Joe's Cincinnati. This is an interesting one.
St. Joe's.
Not as interesting as I thought. I also went with St. Joe's.
Yeah.
I also think when we get to it, they give Oregon a run.
My brother has them in the Final Four.
St. Joe's?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because he likes St. Joe's, or?
I don't think he didn't know where they were. He was just feeling it. But I mean, it's not a bad random upset to pick.
No, I don't think so either. All right, moving down, Baylor versus Yale.
Yale.
Okay.
And I originally had Baylor 10 minutes ago and just changed it.
I went with Baylor, and I'll tell you why I went with Baylor, because I think, to be honest, Baylor's is right up there with the great teams in the Big 12. I mean, there might be a step below Kansas, but I think they're right there. Though this is, oh my gosh, this is such a classic 5-12.
And very similar styles of play too.
Right. I just think Baylor. I think Baylor's too big for him.
We'll see.
And not that I dislike the pick, but I just feel Baylor. Listen, I have Baylor in the Elite Eight. I had to pick him here.
Oh wow. Actually, yeah, I before changing it, I did too.
I will say, if Yale does win that game, then that's a Sweet Six. That could easily be a Sweet 16 team.
They are mine.
The next game coming up,
whichever team wins that round will beat Duke in the next round.
Duke. There are two types of Duke teams, and they're playing UNC Wilmington, correct?
Yes.
There are two types of Duke teams: the Duke team that goes to the Final Four, and the Duke team that loses on the first weekend. This is not a Final Four Duke team, so they'll lose on the first weekend.
They're still without Emil Jefferson, and when they played Yale in the regular season, it was a close game at halftime, and then Emil Jefferson had 9 points, 15 boards. He was the reason they won that game. Without Jefferson, they won't be able to rebound with Yale or Baylor, whichever team wins that game.
I think Duke has the talent, but they're in the tournament, and they're basically playing with 6 players.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, it's a 2-person team. It's Grayson Allen and
Ingram
and Brandon Ingram. So I think they beat UNC Wilmington.
I do too.
And we'll get to the next round. I don't have a lot of faith in them to go far. Texas, Northern Iowa.
Originally had Texas in the Sweet 16. I switched that to Northern Iowa.
I don't have Northern Iowa in the Sweet 16.
But I don't either. But
I do have them winning that game.
Yeah, I have them then losing to Texas A&M.
And Northern Iowa, they've proven that they can beat big teams this year.
Yep.
Wichita
They
State,
beat UNC.
and the big one is North Carolina. So I think they beat Texas. Oh, I think Texas is a good team. I would kind of love to see Texas A&M, but especially
Yeah.
because they're not in the same conference. But I think Northern Iowa has the experience, and actually they have tournament experience too. And I don't think it's a favorable matchup for Texas.
Although I do like Shaka Smart, his tournament experience as a coach.
Oh, I do too. I do
So,
too.
I mean, I think that if they're going to win that game, I think that's going to be because they have Shaka Smart as their head coach.
We also could see Texas VCU in the Sweet 16.
It'd be epic.
It would be. It would be amazing. Texas A&M Green Bay.
Texas A&M.
Agreed. Nothing.
That's saying. I
Nothing
mean,
further
I
required.
don't think that one's going to be an upset.
No. Oregon State VCU.
VCU.
I went VCU as well. Tournament. I know Shaka Smart's not there anymore, but tournament experience.
And I think Oregon State's slightly overrated. I think they're just playing a bigger conference.
The Pac-12 is overrated. I thought the Pac-12 was rated too highly.
Don't tell Charles Barkley that. Although, first of all, that was the worst.
Wasn't it awful?
That was so bad. Did you see the leaked bracket on Twitter?
Not when it happened. I saw it after
Somebody
the fact.
somebody tweeted it, and I didn't look at it, but I knew it was going around, and but because I saw all the kids who I went to school with, or who I go to school with, tweet like, "Oh my god, this bracket says we're in blah 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 blah." And I'm thinking to myself I'm not believing this until I see it. So, but somebody leaked it.
Yeah, they should take it away from CBS. That was.
Well, I don't know why.
That was horrible.
I love inside the NBA. I love Ernie Johnson, love Kenny Smith, love Barkley and those guys. But stick to the NBA, stick to your own show with Shaq. Don't go into this.
I agree. They should have kept it with Greg Gumbel.
It took way too long.
The breaks between the first bracket and the second, or the first quadrant and the second quadrant, and then the second and the third, it was like a half hour.
Yeah.
They didn't even have to do it anymore because the bracket had already leaked.
Yeah.
They should have just. I don't understand. Don't understand. All right. Oklahoma, Cal State, Bakersfield. Is that Cal State Bakersfield?
Yes.
That's Cal State Bakersfield. Oklahoma.
Yep.
Back top of the bracket. Oregon, St. Joe's.
Oregon.
I'm gonna go. I could see St. Joe's easily. I went Oregon because I want to have a decent bracket this year. I always do horribly. So, and I usually, because I pick upsets like that, I'm gonna go Oregon. Though St. Joe's matches up well against them. So especially in size, in the fact that their big guys play on the outside, which is the only thing I've heard about this game. I take what analysts say with a grain of salt. Whenever they've talked about Oregon St. Joe's, it's always been St. Joe's, similar size, playing the similar position, which is why Utah couldn't hang with Oregon, because their big guys were out of position. I don't know. I think it could happen, but I went with Oregon.
Yeah, I went with the safe one.
Duke against somebody.
I have Yale over Duke.
I went with Baylor. Again.
If Baylor wins that game, I'm going Baylor over Duke too.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I don't think Duke gets out of the first weekend, and I have a tremendous amount of confidence in Krzyzewski, but it's just the team this year. They're not deep, and there's not a whole lot of. There's plenty of talent, but it's not refined talent. So, I've got Baylor in the Sweet 16, and I'm fine with Yale. With you picking Yale going there, I think that could. I would probably pick that too if Yale does go through. Northern Iowa and Texas A&M.
I have A&M.
I do too. I wouldn't have had A&M a month ago though when they were struggling.
Hold on, if Texas wins that game, do you have A&M or Texas?
Probably Texas, to be honest.
Yeah, I originally had Texas in the Sweet 16, and then I switched it to Northern Iowa losing to Texas A&M.
Because I think that's a tough matchup for Texas A&M. But they are, to their credit, they are playing a lot better right now. I know that they just lost to Kentucky. in the SEC championship game. Texas A&M shouldn't be a 3 anyway.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think they beat Northern Iowa, lose to Texas. VCU, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
I agree. Buddy Hield, Player of the Year. Isaiah Cousins, who has not gotten as much publicity
Yeah.
as I thought he would early in the year. Also a great player. I think, honestly, Oklahoma is the most talented team in this bracket.
On this side, yeah. I mean, I like Oregon, but I think they're a good team, but I think they're overranked as a 1.
I agree. Oregon against, you have Yale. I have Baylor. I assume you picked Oregon.
Yes.
I went Baylor. I think Baylor gets through this. I would go as far as to say, if Duke does sneak out of the first weekend, I think that they beat Baylor. Or not Baylor, excuse me, Oregon.
Oregon.
Right.
If they get that momentum going, then...
Yes, if they can get by their first 2 games, I think that they can beat Oregon. But as it stands, I have Baylor. I think Baylor... I think Baylor has more impressive wins this season than Oregon, and I think they play in a tougher conference, and they did more with a lesser schedule, if that makes sense.
No, I understand.
Than Oregon did. I mean, and okay, even though they lost to Oregon this year, I think that the times have changed. They have wins against Vanderbilt, at Iowa State, at Texas Tech, which is still a good win. At West Virginia, they beat Texas on the road, and they beat Iowa State at home. And again, Texas in the tournament. So I leaning toward Baylor. And then second bottom half of the bracket, another Sweet 16, A&M.
Oklahoma.
A&M, Oklahoma. Oklahoma?
Yep.
Elite 8. Oklahoma against Oregon / Baylor.
Oklahoma.
I agree. Again, most talented team in the bracket, which gives us that magnificent Kansas-Oklahoma rematch in the Final Four. They should have played.
That's all I was going for.
I wish they had played a third time before this, because I mean, if that Buddy Hield buzzer beater had gone in.
Yep, we know. We know.
It's sad. All right, to the east, I guess, with North Carolina.
Sure.
Speaking of tough draws, they're
getting Florida Gulf Coast.
Well, I wasn't necessarily thinking that. And by the way, I am picking Florida Gulf Coast to beat Fairleigh Dickinson.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about North Carolina.
No.
Okay.
It has to happen 1 year. A 16 has to be a 1 at some
And
point.
Florida Gulf Coast is going to be the team to do it, too.
But look who North Carolina has to play to get to the Elite Eight.
I know. Either Indiana or Kentucky.
Providence. If Chris Dunn and Ben Bentil play up to their ability, that's a brutal second round game. And then Indiana, Kentucky.
Yeah, and then West Virginia or Xavier.
Right. It's brutal.
Yep.
So I assume we have them winning their first game.
Yep.
USC Providence, which is very even.
I have Providence. Simply because of star power.
I agree. I think when we get to the tournament, your big players have to show up, and I think Chris Dunn and Ben Bentil do that. They beat USC. Indiana, Chattanooga.
Indiana.
Is that Chattanooga? Yes.
It is.
I'm questioning myself. Indiana. If only I would have so much more confidence in them if they had beaten Michigan. It's a shame they didn't. But still Indiana. I hyped them up all year, so I think they at least win a game. Kentucky against Stony Brook making their March Madness debut.
Kentucky, although if Kentucky wins this game, then I don't know. I feel like that's a tough matchup for them.
I do too. And I don't like Kentucky anyway, so kind of hoping for an upset there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, but and again, this point, this is not my original point. This point's been made before, but I think John Calipari has done a fantastic coaching job with Kentucky this year.
Certainly towards the second half of the season.
Especially after what happened last year when they were so dominant. To turn around and have a completely different team. Team certainly is not as talented as last year.
Yeah.
And, still manage a 4. They should be a 3, by the way. They should be a 3. I think the committee screwed that up, but I digress. Michigan, Tulsa in the play-in game. In the play-in game
Michigan.
of... I went with Michigan as well. The play-in game of teams that shouldn't be in it. Okay, that should be like Monmouth, St. Bonnie's or something.
Yeah.
All right, and I wanted Monmouth in this tournament just to see that bench. Because
we all did.
You know that they'd have some special stuff like cooked up for the tournament. And I also don't understand. They won 27
games.
Oh boy. You all right?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, what could they possibly break out for the tournament? Listen, what haven't they done?
Just the fact they're not in. They won 17 games away from home after the committee last year said, "Oh, schedule away games." They did, and they won. Well, some of them were at neutral location. They won 17 games away from home, and apparently the criteria changed, which I don't understand. Subject for another time. West Virginia, Stephen F. Austin.
West Virginia, although it's close.
Yes, I love Stephen F. Austin, and I think they should be higher than a 14. They are something like 57-1 in their conference over the past 4 years, I think. 4 or 5 years. Like 57-1, which is absurd. And they did win a tournament game 2 years ago. So definitely a team that can pull an upset. I just think West Virginia is too good. And actually, we just skipped over Notre Dame, Michigan.
Notre Dame.
I think Michigan can pull an upset, but I'm not going to pick one of those play-in teams. So Notre Dame. Wisconsin, Pitt.
Went back and forth between this one. I chose Pitt.
I went Wisconsin, but I had a feeling that you'd pick Pitt because you have seen the best of Pitt this year.
Yes.
And I have seen the best of Wisconsin.
Although Wisconsin beat us too.
Wisconsin and seasoned tournament team. I know Frank the Tank is gone. I know it's a much different team. Different coach, different everything. But I still give him a little edge over Pitt. And granted, I have seen Wisconsin a lot more this year. But I went with what I know.
Yeah.
Took them over Pitt. Xavier versus Weber State, which I thought was Weber State for years until I heard Weber State on Sunday when they were
Xavier.
selected.
Damian Lillard isn't on Weber State this year, so I'll take Xavier.
I went Xavier as well. I thought that they were going to be upset bait in this tournament, but they have some favorable matchups, potential matchups. Back to the top, North Carolina Providence.
UNC.
It's going to be closer than you think it is.
That doesn't surprise me.
Or than the general public thinks it is. The average fan. But I agree. North Carolina. Indiana, Kentucky.
Originally went Indiana, switched it to Kentucky.
Potentially the game of the tournament. I'm going to go Indiana. In my first original bracket, when I went through it the first time, I had Indiana in the Final Four.
I had Indiana in the Sweet 16 and then losing. I still have UNC.
I'm just concerned. The only reason I don't have them there now is I'm concerned that Kentucky's going to beat them. Because honestly, I think Kentucky is a more difficult matchup than North Carolina. I honestly believe that because I think Kentucky's a more consistent team. Because we've seen some great things from North Carolina, and we've also seen some horrible things,
That is true.
including almost losing to Boston College, who, might I remind you, if you combine their men's basketball and football records against the ACC this season, they were 0-27, and they almost lost to them, which is absurd. Point is, I went with Indiana against Kentucky.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, West Virginia.
West Virginia.
I have to stick with the Big 12 because I have said for many weeks now that the Big 12 is the best conference this season. So, Big 12 ACC matchup, had to go with West Virginia. Wisconsin, Xavier.
Xavier.
I went Xavier as well. I thought
I originally had Wisconsin in the Sweet 16.
before.
All right, excuse me. I originally had Wisconsin in the Sweet 16, then switched my matchup to Pitt, and then I had Pitt losing to Xavier.
Before the brackets came out, I thought that I was going to have Xavier out in the second round as a 2 seed, but Wisconsin that's not a bad matchup to get, or Pitt.
Yeah.
I haven't beaten either team and going Sweet 16 to play West Virginia. North Carolina against either Indiana or Kentucky.
I have UNC.
Oh, the only reason I have North Carolina is because I'm afraid that Indiana's going to lose to Kentucky, and I don't want to have. I want to have a team one of my teams alive in the second weekend.
That would be nice.
I'm playing it safe. Went with I don't even know where we are. Sweet 16. Went with North Carolina. Yeah, that's what I did. West Virginia, Xavier.
West Virginia.
Agreed. West Virginia. They've beaten Kansas and Oklahoma this year. And they're honestly, I honestly think they're one of the better teams in the country, which gives us a very interesting North Carolina West Virginia matchup in the Elite Eight.
UNC.
Yeah, I went North Carolina too. I hate myself for going North Carolina because I don't trust them. It's not at the same level as that I don't trust Miami or Oregon, but I don't know what North Carolina team is going to show up.
Yeah.
And if
that's understandable.
If the team that beat Duke at Cameron Indoor shows up, then they're a natural.
And beat Notre Dame by 30 in the semis of the ACC.
Though that might have been more about Notre Dame than it was about North Carolina.
True.
They couldn't shoot the ball.
UNC's when they're on, they're incredible.
When they're on, they're probably better than Kansas.
Yes.
Because they certainly have more talent. Bryce Johnson, if Buddy Hield was not like a thing, then Bryce Johnson's player of the year. And he might be the most... When he's playing at his peak, he probably is the best player in the country.
Love Bryce Johnson. And especially if Paige gets going.
Yeah. No.
Midwest now?
Yeah. Let's do the Midwest.
So we're 3 for 3. We agree on the Final Four.
Do we really?
Yeah. Kansas, Oklahoma, UNC.
I think we're going to go 4 for 4.
I have a feeling we are too.
Is this the first time ever?
I have no idea.
There haven't been that many. I have a feeling I'm almost positive we're going to disagree on the Final Four matchups, though. Or not the matchups, but the results.
We'll see.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Virginia against Hampton.
Virginia. Just making sure.
Texas Tech, Butler.
Butler.
I agree.
Although I like Texas Tech too.
I do too. Another Big 12 team that played their way into the tournament. Because at the start of the Big 12 season, or even a couple weeks in, they were not a tournament team, and they played their way.
I can never pick against Butler though.
No, you can't pick against Butler in the tournament. That's just you don't do that. Purdue against Arkansas Little Rock.
Purdue, although I could see this being an upset too.
I have nothing else to add. Agree. Iowa State, Iona, in a game that both teams will score 150 points. You okay?
Iowa State. Yeah, I sneezed.
I see. I have Iowa State as well.
Yeah,
Seton
I think
Hall. Go ahead.
Georgia. Yeah, nothing.
No, no, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say I think Niang's better than anyone on Iona, and I think in a matchup like that, star power is going to prevail, and I think Niang's the star.
I think Iona's going to score 80 points.
My brother has Iona in the Sweet 16.
Really? He
Yeah,
is not afraid to pick those upsets.
no, he's not.
Seton Hall, Gonzaga.
I think it's going to be a heck of a game.
Yeah,
I have Seton Hall because they're extremely hot, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Gonzaga wins.
I agree. Again, just because they're coming off a win against Villanova, and they beat Xavier too. If I'm
Yep,
not
and
mistaken.
Isaiah Whitehead's a stud too.
Yes. Utah, Fresno State.
Utah.
Could see an upset here, but I think Utah overall is just too much talent, and I can't pick a 14.
Yeah,
You can't do it. Dayton against Syracuse. Here we go.
Syracuse. It's a great matchup for the Orange.
I went with Dayton because I'm salty that they're a 10.
I know actually a kid who loves more so than I do loves Syracuse. I'm running the bracket pool for my friend group up at Hughes,
Oh, really?
and one of them, a huge fan, chose Dayton. He goes, "I don't think we're going to win that matchup," and I'm like, something you've been yelling at me all year for saying we're not going to get in the tournament, and then
And you have
we get in, and then you choose them to lose, and whatever.
My question is, how many of those people in that bracket pool have Syracuse winning the whole thing?
One, which is I don't think he follows college basketball. He just wanted to be a part of it.
I guarantee, as bad as Maryland has been recently, and the fact that they would have to play, Kansas, possibly Kansas, possibly Cal, Miami, Villanova, that 90% of the people in Maryland have them winning the whole thing. Which I guess is, root for your team,
Yeah,
but
they're not exactly an easy team to select to win the entire thing.
correct. Michigan State, Middle Tennessee State.
Michigan State.
Yeah.
That kind of speaks for itself.
Michigan State. Back to the top, Virginia, Butler.
Virginia.
I have Virginia, but I thought about Butler.
But
Butler's been,
you always have to think about Butler.
you have to. Butler's just been a little too. They've been too inconsistent this year. They're not.
It's the last Brad Stevens recruiting class.
Yeah.
So I think his mark on that program is slowly dissipating.
So you think that's it for Butler? You think
No,
this is the last year?
I think they're still a good team, but they're not the same team that they were a couple of years ago.
True. Very true. Not the team that went to the national championship.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, and didn't win one.
Yeah. Gordon Hayward's shot had gone in.
I know. I was the only person outside of the Duke campus rooting for Duke because I had them winning the whole thing before the tournament. It remains the only national champion I've ever picked correctly.
I picked Kansas the year they beat Memphis. So
Did
I
you?
got that one right.
I had Memphis.
Winning the entire thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. I
Well,
picked.
obviously, you just told me you had Kansas.
I had Missouri the year.
The year they got it.
State.
Yeah, a little aside before we go back to the bracket. I remember watching that game over. I was over someone's house, and their father had had Missouri winning the whole thing or in the Final Four or something. I have never seen someone so mad about a college basketball team they don't care about than when Missouri lost. It was so funny. Wasn't that the same year that Duke lost to Lehigh?
Yes.
That was fantastic. That was great.
Chris was at that game,
Oh, was he really? Chris, your
and then
brother?
yeah, and then Eric was at the Duke Mercer game.
That's right. I get yeah, Duke Final Four or first weekend.
Yep.
That's how it works. Oh, where are we? We did Virginia Butler,
Purdue, Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Same.
Sticking with my Big 12 guys, and I think Iowa State is a more talented team than Purdue and
I
more
agree.
experience. Seton Hall, Utah.
Seton Hall.
Agreed. Seton Hall, hottest team.
Whichever team, even if Gonzaga beats Seton Hall, Gonzaga beats Utah.
I'd agree with that. I don't think we're giving Utah enough credit though, but I do agree with that. I think Gonzaga beats them too, but I have Seton Hall based on their current stretch. Or somebody against Michigan State. Syracuse, Michigan State, or Dayton, Michigan State.
Michigan State by 30.
Yeah.
If Michigan or Syracuse got like the best possible matchup they could possibly gotten as a 10 seed by playing Dayton, just the way the styles play against each other, Syracuse got a great matchup, and then got the worst possible matchup in Michigan State.
Yeah. I think Villanova or Xavier, they could have given both a run. Maybe not Oklahoma, but yeah, Michigan State's the worst that you could get.
Yeah. It's terrible for us.
Sweet 16.
Virginia, Iowa State. Virginia.
Really?
Yeah,
I have Iowa State.
I like Virginia.
I like Iowa State because they've beaten Kansas. They've beaten Oklahoma. They've hung with all of the good teams in the Big 12. So I know they can. Only reason I'm down on Virginia, and I'm not saying this is right, but it's that I don't think they should be a 1. Honestly. They didn't win their conference tournament. But also, I guess at the same time, they haven't really lost to anybody horrible.
True.
So, I don't know. I have more faith in Iowa State, but I think I could see Virginia. I think it's a toss-up. Virginia was a 1 last year, weren't they?
Yep.
Do you remember how far did they go?
Like second round.
Second round? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. All right. Seton Hall, Michigan State.
Michigan State.
I would have had Seton Hall if it was Xavier or Villanova, but Michigan State's too good. And Michigan State against either Virginia or Iowa State.
Excuse me, last year Virginia was at 2 and lost in the second round of Michigan State.
Well, there you go. I thought they were a 1. Maybe that was a couple years ago.
They've been a 1, yeah.
All right. Elite 8, Midwest region. Who do you have?
Michigan State.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Fun fact, 2014, Virginia was a 1 and lost to Michigan State in the Sweet 16.
Wow,
so
there's some history there, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This could potentially 2013. Let's go. Come on. Michigan State beat Duke. Michigan State lost to Duke. Darn.
That's a shame.
So they did not play each other again.
So Aodhan,
be the third year in a row.
Third year in a row.
This could be the third year in a row.
Potentially.
Could be.
We have the exact same Final Four.
We do.
Which
Uh-oh.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess this is good, right? We have
some agreements. We both trust each other's judgment.
Yeah, and now we can debate this. Kansas, Oklahoma, the rematch.
Until Oklahoma beats Kansas, I'll take Kansas.
I have Oklahoma. Here's why I picked Oklahoma. The tournament. Gosh, what am I trying to say? I know what I'm trying to say. Listen, the best players always step up at the biggest moments, right? In the biggest games.
That's why they're the best players.
Right. Oklahoma has the best 2 players, would have the best 2 players on the floor in Buddy Hield and Isaiah Cousins. Yes,
Mm,
better players. I love Perry Ellis,
love Wayne Selden.
love Wayne Selden, but they're not at the same level. You're looking at two players that are going to go pro versus two players on Kansas that are really good in their system, but probably don't have illustrious pro careers in their future. I think Oklahoma, they've been very close twice. And I think the second game they were flat for an entire half
Yeah.
in the home game. And I don't think that would happen again. They were right with Kansas the entire game in that triple overtime game in Lawrence. Game of the year clearly so far. With a close second, unfortunately for you, being Duke at North Carolina.
Yeah.
But you got some revenge at Cameron Indoor. Point is, I think Oklahoma's been with Kansas all year, or in the two right with Kansas the two times they faced each other, and I think Oklahoma has more star power, and I think that will show in this game.
All right. No, it's gonna be a close game no matter what, but
It's gonna be a great game.
I trust Kansas.
All right, okay, that's fine.
Michigan State, UNC.
Michigan State. Michigan.
Same.
Yeah, I have my doubts that North Carolina will be in this game. I don't have a whole lot of doubt that Michigan State will be in this game. Wait a minute. Did I just say Michigan State twice?
No.
Okay.
You got it right.
Excellent. All right, Michigan State against somebody. I know I said Kansas. Before the brackets came out, I realized that I said I'd pick Kansas right now to win a national championship. But
Yep.
Michigan State is the best team in the country.
So you chose Michigan State over Oklahoma?
I did.
I have Michigan State over Kansas. So
Okay.
we have the same national champion, just
and the
same Final Four, just different championship games.
Does not make for entertaining.
Most outstanding player. Is it Valentine or somebody else?
It's either going to be Valentine or Healed. Though I think Perry Ellis will have a big tournament, though.
I feel like he's been around forever.
Perry, well, yeah, he's a senior. Right? He's a senior. I believe. You know what else I believe? I also believe that Aodhan is not with us anymore. Hold on a second. Aodhan?
You froze. I have no idea what you just said.
Okay, you froze too. That's all right. It's okay.
It happens.
I was talking and then I realized that it's like, oh, he's not. Aodhan is not in the building anymore. Okay, it doesn't matter what I just said. I don't even remember. It was something about Perry Ellis. He's a senior, right?
Yeah, it feels like he's been around forever, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that in college basketball terms, that is forever.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the same Final Four. We roughly have the same, or at least very similar Elite Eight. Oh no, maybe not really. We have 5 Elite Eight teams in common. Most successful conference in the tournament this year?
Well, based off of what I said, it's going to be the Big 12.
Agreed. So we finally agree on this show that the Big 12 is the superior conference this year.
Maybe.
I think so. I have 5 Big 12 teams in the Elite Eight.
Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3. I only have 3.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm still. Who is it? It's Kansas, Oklahoma, West Virginia.
Yep.
Oh yeah, because you had Virginia beating Iowa State, and what would the other one be? Oh yeah, Baylor. Oh yeah, you have Baylor out in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how about this? As we try to fill the last last few minutes of the show. Um, give me go through the bracket again. Top four. We'll do four. Top four potential upsets that you did not pick.
San Diego State over Maryland.
South Dakota State.
South Dakota, whatever. It's the same thing.
SDSU.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? Okay.
Just in the first round.
Yeah.
Okay. Wichita State over Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Yale over Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Northern Iowa over Texas. Gonzaga over Seton. I know this is more than four.
All right, keep going.
Gonzaga over Seton Hall. Fresno State over Utah.
Mm.
Stephen F. Austin over West Virginia.
I agree with that. Iona over Iowa State.
Stony Brook over Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Also,
Hawaii over Cal.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Agree with that one. And I would also suggest, if I can find what I'm looking for. Can you tell I'm looking at the bracket right now?
I can tell you're not looking at the screen.
Yeah.
Which sounds like me for about half of it.
The one other one I would mention is Arkansas Little Rock over Purdue. So, I could certainly see that. All right. Well, instead of, not that this is the very end of the show, but I did, and I know this is going to take a little longer. So, there's a variant of 4 verticals that I thought we should do. Top 4 games to watch in the first round, and top 4.
You froze again. Again. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. 4 verticals variant. Not that this is the complete end of the show, but this might take a little longer. Top 4 first round games and top 4 potential second round games.
Okay.
Would you care to begin, or would you like me to kick it off?
I'm looking at it.
Okay. Well, I'll start while you look. First round, so the games that will happen for sure. Oh gosh, I should have looked at this before anyway. USC Providence, I think it's very even. West Virginia Stephen F. Austin, to be honest, for me. So the more I think about that, the more I think that could be an upset. Iowa State Iona, because both teams are going to score 150 points. And how about give me Iowa Temple. That one intrigues me.
All right, I'm looking at Seton Hall Gonzaga.
Oh yeah, right.
USC Providence.
Uh-huh.
Arizona Wichita State, and Baylor Yale.
That's right. That's right.
Those are my 4.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that those will all be great. Baylor Yale's another one. The more I look at it, the more interesting I think it is. Potential second round games.
Kansas UConn. Indiana Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. That's the big one.
UNC Providence.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon St. Joe's.
Mm-hmm. Temple Nova, certainly for me.
Well, yeah, I have Temple winning that game, so I should.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen, but Texas A&M Texas.
That would be cool.
Yeah, if we get to that. I think Maryland Cal might be the best game if we get that, with the possible exception of Indiana Kentucky. And Virginia Butler. Because Butler always seems to find a way in March. So why not?
I don't know.
Yeah, so why not pick Butler? Why not pick Butler? All right. So, any other interesting tidbits you want to bring up? I know we're running pretty short on this one, but I guess we are only doing one topic.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it'll be for a season filled with so many upsets, especially amongst top teams. I was surprised at how many top teams I had advancing late.
I agree
Like,
with that.
I mean, my final four is 2 1s and 2 2s.
Hmm.
Like,
I agree. The lowest seed I have in the Elite Eight is a 4. No, a 5. Baylor. Sorry. But yeah, I have all of the 1 seeds in the Sweet 16. And I have all of the 2 seeds in the Sweet 16. And and yeah, two 1 seeds in the Final Four. Though I don't have any in the national championship, but honestly, Oklahoma and Michigan State might as well be 1 seeds.
true. They're like 1As
Yeah.
or 1Bs.
Honestly, I would rather have those two than Oregon and Virginia as ones.
I like Virginia a lot. Certainly more than Oregon.
I agree with that. Yeah, and again, I think Pac-12 is a little overrated overall this year. I don't think Oregon State at 19 and 12 should be a 7. But, we'll see. Maybe Oregon State will go to the Final Four and
And
prove
then
me
prove
wrong.
us all wrong.
That's right. Something like that will happen.
I'm sure. All starts tonight.
That's
Well,
right. And
yeah,
the best first 4 game is tonight with Vandy, Wichita State.
true.
All right, here is. Let me ask you this: what is more likely for us to see this year? A 16 beating a 1, or we'll say a second half seed, like a 9 through 16 going to the Final Four?
I think a 9 through 16. Because I think, honestly, I think the ones, I mean, none of them have injury problems. None of them are poorly finishing into the final four, or into the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas is strong. They're all coached well. Honestly, I think Oregon, was one of the weaker number 1 seeds, but I think they got a relatively good draw with Holy Cross and Southern.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, honestly, you could see
Florida Gulf Coast, maybe.
UNC's too talented.
One would like to think so. In
think.
theory, they are.
But I mean, you could see Gonzaga would have to go through Utah, Michigan State, and a Virginia or Iowa State to get there. But Gonzaga could get there. Butler could get there. VCU, Wichita State, UConn,
I would say UConn, yeah.
Providence.
Mm.
I mean, these are all teams that have top of the line players, top of the line coaches, whatever it may be, and tournament experience that benefit well in the tournament.
Yeah. No, I think I would agree. But it has to happen at some point.
It
A
does.
16 at some point has to do it.
It almost happened to Syracuse a few years ago.
Against UNC Asheville, right?
Yep.
That's right. And I remember Georgetown years ago who did they beat? Princeton, right?
Yeah.
Beat Princeton by 1. And Princeton had the last possession.
Mm-hmm. Hey, by the way, Leicester City's still hanging on there.
I don't know how we got onto. Well, I guess it is. There's a kind of a connection. Yes, they did win yesterday, which is great. I listen. I would have taken the money, but I'm still rooting for them.
I want them to win.
I do too. That would be. This is totally not has to do with basketball, but my one non-basketball point for today is that would be the greatest. I don't want to say upset, but the greatest Cinderella story in the history of like modern sports.
And yet, no one in America will care.
No one will. It's unfortunate because since the Premier League came into existence, you know how many teams have won?
5.
5. The only kind of off.
Chelsea, Man City, Man U, Blackburn.
Yeah, Blackburn is the only kind of odd one,
They won it
especially
once.
yeah in '94, I believe, which is weird to us now because they're not even in the top division. The point is, it less teams like Leicester winning the league that just doesn't happen. That would be like Austin P winning the national championship, bringing it back to basketball.
Yeah,
That would be like Austin P
five
winning the
thousand to
championship.
one odds.
That's right. Speaking of odds, what was the only like positive thing that came from watching the selection show this year was that I finally learned what the actual odds are for picking a perfect bracket, which is like, oh gosh, I say that and I can't remember it. It was something along the lines of 1.4 quintillion to 1
Let's see.
or something absurd. If they got this wrong, then the entire show was a bust.
Syracuse.com. The odds of a perfect bracket, a Cornell professor has it figured out 1 in 92 quintillion. Or 9.2 quintillion.
Not 1.4, 9.2. I must have misheard. That's more. That's more than 1.4. 9 is more than 1.
Quintillion.
I can't count that high. How many zeros is that?
18.
Jesus. Okay. Okay. Do we have anything else? What are the games tonight? I know it's Vandy, Wichita State, and then actually before that it's Florida Gulf Coast, Fairleigh Dickinson. Unfortunately, a different Florida Gulf Coast team.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be Lob City Part 2.
No, sadly. Um, I guess do you have anything else? This is shorter than I anticipated, but I mean we went through the bracket. I don't know
We did.
how much else we can really discuss. I mean, I could go on forever about how bad the selection show was.
Couldn't we all? We could go on for as long as the selection show, which was forever.
It started, or they started announcing the seeds at a weird time too,
Yeah.
at like 5:40 or something, or like 5:50. I don't know. Do you like the Greg Gumbel team? Like those
Yeah, I
three?
think they do a pretty good job. I mean, last year they went through it relatively quickly, and
Mm-hmm.
they did a good job. You know, they always do a good job, and now they went away from that for some reason.
Uh-huh. I have a feeling they won't be back next year. I did find it funny at first how Barkley didn't know how to
Oh, the screen.
use the touch screen.
Yeah, that was really bad.
I don't I don't necessarily think that their analysis was bad. I just think that the
It was
presentation.
executed poorly.
Yeah, and you're right, it was too long. It's 2 hours. They could have done that. Literally, could have done that in 20 minutes, and like still gone through the games carefully.
Yeah,
But I
it's a
guess
shame.
it is a shame. It was a shame. It was a waste. But we do have the bracket, and I actually, by a similar token, again, I think the selection committee did a poor job. Here's final topic from me, unless you have anything else. Final topic that I have is I don't understand why the committee doesn't have a set like number of guidelines.
Like criteria.
Yeah, criteria like this is what you have to do. Cuz it seems like every year it's different.
Yeah, like you said last year, win more on the road. And this year, it's be part of a Power Six conference, and
Right. And top 20 or top 50 RPI wins, right? Because you feel bad for a team like Monmouth or Valpo who went out and did what the committee asked them to do and executed well. I mean, I mentioned earlier Monmouth has 17 wins away from home this season compared to 10 at home. They won 27 games. and they lost to actually a pretty good Iona team in the conference championship game, and they get snubbed,
Yeah.
which doesn't seem right. So I don't know. I don't know.
What are you gonna do? I mean, I agree with you. There should be some sort of criteria.
And they should. I don't know. I don't know, and it won't happen either. But I just wish. I feel bad. I feel bad because, but the only, to be honest, I'm being selfish because the only reason that I'm kind of up in arms about it this year is because I wanted to see Monmouth's bench. That's the only reason.
So it doesn't really affect you at all.
I have no connection to Valparaiso or St. Mary's or South Carolina. Just want to see Monmouth's bench do their Sistine Chapel thing.
They could have
Brilliant.
what's a good one? They could have had something for each city they played in, or something like that.
Well, they probably only play in a couple.
Maybe they go on a deep run. Maybe they
Aiden,
win the first league.
I
They'd have one.
I heard a couple words that you just said, and everything else was just static.
That's it. I mean, maybe they go on a deep turning run, and I mean, they have to have everything prepared as far as in case they went to the Final Four.
The bench carries them to the Final Four. Can you imagine that?
Literally, like they just pick them up.
Literally carry them to the Final. It'd be amazing. Oh well, just an excuse to watch the NIT this year.
True.
As they are 1 seed. I was surprised. St. Mary's is a 2 seed in that, which.
Yeah, isn't South Carolina the 1?
Yeah. Or one of the ones.
Yeah.
It's them, Monmouth, Valpo, and the other one that I can't think of right now. South Carolina, Monmouth, Valpo, and another team that didn't make the tournament that probably should have instead of Tulsa. You gonna look it up for me?
Yep.
All right. Cannot remember for whatever reason. We went over this earlier too. When we were talking about the bubble teams that should have gotten in.
Bonaventure.
Oh yeah, right. Oh gosh, yeah, of course. St. Bonnie's.
Yeah.
Oh well. Well, we'll see. Maybe Tulsa. Can you imagine if Tulsa wins the national championship?
Just proves everybody wrong.
The team that poor Tulsa, because they're going to be the team that everyone points at, like they don't belong. Can you imagine? That would be great. All right, I think we're grasping at straws here. So, is anything else to Oh gosh, are you frozen again?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're grasping at straws here. Is there anything else you want to cover before the first night of tournament games?
No. It's going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think so too. Wichita State and Vandy tonight.
Yeah. Same with Florida Gulf Coast and Fairleigh Dickinson.
Mm-hmm. That being the early game, and then the other two playing games on Wednesday. And then get it started for real, I suppose, on Thursday afternoon. We always seem to get a couple or almost upsets early in the day. I remember Northeastern last year.
Yeah, the first.
That was the first game.
Yeah, the first game 2 years ago, Dayton beat Ohio State.
That's right, a game that I had picked.
I didn't. And I watched it in school, and I was like, oh, God.
Oh, poor baby.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Okay. All right, I think that'll do it. A little bit shorter again, but that's all right because we only really had one topic.
Yeah.
All right, so tournament starts tonight. We'll meet up again sometime next week before the Sweet 16. Cry over our brackets, I'm sure. Which will be more than ruined by then. And yeah, okay. So for Aiden Doyle, I'm Noah Johnson. This has been the 5th episode of the Chirp, our March Madness 2016 preview, and we'll see you next week.
All right.